Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us. I have already called this meeting to order, so we're going to go ahead and start off with the Pledge of Allegiance. If you could all stand, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag. If you could all stand, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Superintendent Macaluso, do you have any corrections or modifications to the agenda?
At this time, there are no corrections or modifications to the agenda.
Then I move that we adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
I'll call for the vote, please.
Ms. Clementi?
Aye.
Mr. Farrell?
Aye.
Judge Mays?
Aye.
Mr. Voss?
Aye.
Dr. Wright?
Aye.
And first up, we have a promising practices presentation.
Thank you, President Voss. At this time, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Dalton Sprouse, and he will introduce our presenter today, or our presentation today. Mr. Sprouse.
Thank you, Superintendent Macaluso, President Voss, and members of the board. As you know, we have many, many community partners that are so valued and appreciated in our district, many that step up and support in ways that sometimes aren't even known to the general public. And today we want to recognize one of, if not our longest standing partner that we've had, and this is SunWest Credit Union, formerly known as SunWest Educational Credit Union, because they were a credit union founded by local Pueblo educators, and their purpose was to support our teachers. They've now opened this up, and now they're a credit union open to the public. But one thing that hasn't changed is their commitment to our community, their commitment, more importantly, to the students in the school district and District 60. In very many ways, unique ways to support our families, many of whom may be in need. And as we all know, times can change in an instant. And sometimes any one of us may be in a situation where we just need a little help. And that's where SunWest Credit Union has really stepped up. They've provided coat drives and shoe drives for mass events. But they do a lot behind the scenes as well. And so I wanted to really showcase them tonight. I asked our communications team to go out and work with them. And we're really proud to share with you a special video this evening that I think you'll really enjoy. So allow me to share my screen. I'm going to mute myself and we'll start the video.
SunWest was founded by a group of educators that were driven to provide affordable financial services to their colleagues. We've stayed true to our mission by continually meeting and investing in our schools.
I've been a member of the SunWest Credit Union since 1969. By the way, it was then referred to as the Pueblo Teachers Credit Union. And the name there is really important because it said teachers. And no longer do we have that name in our title, SunWest Credit Union, but we still work closely with our teachers.
The SunWest Foundation was created to improve the educational experience for students that are experiencing financial struggles. The employees and partners of SunWest Credit Union have been key in generating donations to fund the mission of the SunWest Foundation.
This money is funded by their own employees. They all donate. They all give back to just help in big ways or small ways to help our students in the entire Pueblo community. So they're it's an amazing opportunity to be able to share that with our students and to have them support our district and our kids like they do.
One of the wonderful things about SunWest being a smaller bank and not being one of the big conglomerations is that they really have the pulse beat of the community.
The credit union has a long history of not only providing great services to individual members like myself, but also to the community.
The SunWest Foundation received first place national honors amongst other credit unions our size for the difference that we made in our community by distributing 400 pairs of shoes to students in our community.
So not only our employees, but our partners, our business partners, have been key in generating donations to fund this mission. Some of the children who came to the shoe drive didn't have some shoes. Some of the shoes in the snow, cold weather didn't have soles on the bottom of the shoes. So the staff worked hard to earn the money to pay for the shoes, but once they were actually at the shoe drive handing out the shoes, it was the most warming, fulfilling feeling they could ever experience.
So we had a new freshman student come into Central 3 years ago, and he and his mom attended the SunWest shoe giveaway, because they do that every year for new students, or students who need shoes for the new school year. They went, and he wears a size 16 shoe. So of course SunWest did not have a shoe in that size. Somebody had just mentioned it to me that he needed some new shoes and they weren't able to provide at the giveaway. So I just filled out the application that SunWest has for the program that pretty much they'll help students with anything they need. I think we were probably more excited than the student. Brought him in, we all called him down, we were in the office, and he opened up his brand new pair of shoes in the only size 16 they could find in Pueblo, believe it or not, was Central blue tennis shoes. And it was just amazing, heartfelt.
How are you able to focus on, academics and what you're doing when your little toes are all shoved into a shoe that doesn't fit? If you think about it, that's probably one of the most uncomfortable things you could have in your wear that you're wearing is too tight of shoes or too small of shoes. So we really appreciate SunWest, and thank you so much for what you do for our kids each and every day. We appreciate you.
What I wish people knew about SunWest Credit Union is what a great group of employees that we have here, and everything that they do to go above and beyond and serve those that bank with us.
SunWest Credit Union focuses on providing unmatched customer service. We offer rates that help consumers save for their future and make financing affordable. Our cooperative structure allows us to keep fees low and affordable. SunWest employees are friendly, they're helpful, and they're knowledgeable. They strive to help the member with options that are best suited for them.
The SunWest employees and board of directors are committed to the members of SunWest Credit Union and the communities that we serve. They are a team of professionals dedicated to helping people and creating simple, worry-free banking solutions that make a big difference in our members' lives.
This community is so wonderful, and to have organizations like SunWest Credit Union contribute so much and continue to make it great for the kids that follow people like myself growing up here is just amazing.
I just want to applaud and thank our partners at SunWest Credit Union, especially Janice Mealy and Leslie Shepard for lending their time and letting us come in and just show what they do best, and that's be a great partner to everyone in the community. So I want to thank them again.
Thank you, Mr. Sprouse. I'm not sure if Janice or Leslie are with us on this call, but maybe they're watching. I just want to offer affirmations to SunWest Credit Union. They are a fantastic partner to our school district and to many of our families for many, many years. And, my relationship with SunWest goes back many, many years. As a teacher, as a principal, I called on SunWest many times. And SunWest was the first partner that reached out to me when I first got the superintendency position to say, how can we help? How can we be better partners And so their partnership is much appreciated. So congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Sprouse, for that video, and thank you, SunWest, for your continued support. We'll move now to public comment. Do we have any public comments tonight?
President Voss, we received 7 public comments. I'll be able to play for you now.
Good morning. My name is Josette Jaramillo. My email address is jjaramillo@coaflcio.org. So again, my name is Josette Jaramillo. I'm the president of the Colorado AFL-CIO. I'm calling today in regards to the food service workers for District 60. I am an alumni of District 60. I went to Eastside schools. I still live on the East Side, Bradford, Risley, and East High School. I'm calling because I have concerns about the potential privatization of these services. These services are very important to the kids in our community. I think, as most of you know, we have a lot of kids who are food insecure. And a lot of our programs service those kids who otherwise would go hungry when not in school. But also a lot of our food service workers send food home with some of these kiddos so they have food to eat when they're not in school on the weekend and after hours. These workers have held together our community during this pandemic. They've been on the front lines, they've been preparing food, they've been handing out food to community members and doing this for the last year. They've been putting themselves and their families at risk. And the way that we are thanking them is by getting rid of their retirement, having them reapply for their jobs at potentially lower wages. Privatization is bad for our community. Privatization is bad for our students. Our workers are on the front lines and are the eyes and ears of our schools, seeing these kids, knowing exactly what their dietary needs are, and knowing when there's subtle changes with these kids. I would urge the board of directors for the Pueblo District 60 schools to vote no on any effort to privatize food services. Thank you.
Thank you, Josette.
Hi, my name is Thomas Kelly. My email address is tomkelly@ideew12.org. I am the business manager of IBEW Local 12, representing about 300 members that are electricians and linemen. Many of my members, including myself, who have had or currently have children who attend District 60 schools. We are calling today to express our support for the ASME nutrition service workers. By replacing these workers or outsourcing their jobs, this hurts the economy in Pueblo by eliminating good union-paying jobs and the benefits that come with those wages, compared to those on the outsourced jobs that are low-paying with no benefits. It is important that we provide the best services for our children by providing the best service, not the cheapest. These workers that you currently employed have demonstrated they are above and beyond, that they're the best, especially concerning this last year with COVID and the way they've demonstrated continuing to make sure that there's opportunities for meals for the children in our community. So thank you for allowing me this time. You have a good day.
Thank you, Thomas.
Hi, my name is Nicholas Voss. My email address is nsvoss@gmail.com. and I am calling on behalf of Colorado Wins, the State Employers Union, to speak out against the current process that the administration is doing to look to outsource poverty by accepting RFPs for outside management of food services. Food service workers in the district had already taken a big hit when you went to a 4-day work week and they lost a week's worth of wages. Losing accountability of taxpayer funds by outsourcing to a private sector food service management company is unacceptable. And we know in public services, keeping things regulated in-house is the best way to proceed. Thank you for your time. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Nick.
Hello, my name is Charles Perko. I'm president of United Steelworkers, Local 3267. My email address is caperko@gmail.com, and this is my message for the school board meeting tonight. Hi, my name is Charles Perko, president of United Steelworkers, Local 3267. I would like to lend my voice as one of the executive board delegates to the Southern Colorado Labor Council against any plan to privatize the District 60 School Food Authority. I was dismayed after all of the overtures that the district has made over the last couple of weeks, read in the Chieftain the other day the legal notice stating that it is the sole opinion of SFA that is the overarching factor when it comes to deciding whether to outsource these jobs. That is not correct. That is a falsehood. The SFA answers to the school board, and the school board answers to the people of Pueblo, Colorado. As a citizen of Pueblo and as a taxpayer into Pueblo City Schools, Pueblo District 60, it is my belief and the belief of my members and other friends and family throughout the city of Pueblo that these jobs need to remain within the purview of the district and union jobs. It is absolutely incorrect that they should be outsourced in any way, and that they should be removed from the schedule of union jobs. These are individuals who have spent careers dedicated to this work, and it would be terrible to see the various benefits that come with their jobs being public jobs stripped away from them, such as retirement and all the other benefits that come with that. I and my members will be fighting very hard if this plan moves forward in any way, and we would like to see the school board take a vote tonight to prevent the administration from moving forward with any such plans. I thank you, and you have a great day. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Charles.
Hi, this is Hillary Glasgow, and my email is hmaiochigro@gmail.com. And I wanted to leave a message saying, this is Hillary Glasgow. I'm the president of the AFL-CIO Southern Colorado Labor Council, representing Pueblo and the 16 surrounding counties. And after seeing that, learning that the district was looking at outsourcing food service, I wanted to talk to the board about the obligation that we have as governing structures in Pueblo to protect our community's economy, to protect and serve our children, and to protect and serve our workers. They are public servants. Outsourcing food service is not outsourcing to a public servant, to a public service, to a public agency. We stand firmly against any attempt to outsource the equivalent of a big box store of food service. The food security of Pueblo's children matters, and D60 Nutrition Services have been providing that forever, including during the pandemic. So to turn around after the pandemic and talk about outsourcing the good work that they do for D60's children is a real slap in the face. We owe our children and our community the best that we can give them, and that isn't through reducing jobs, through outsourcing food service, through adding to the poverty in Pueblo. That does not get us ahead. I want you all to know that as this process goes forward, if there are attempts to outsource food services, the unions here will fight that because it's not good for our kids and it's not good for our economy. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Hillary.
Hi, this is Tisha Wyatt with District 60. I am an educator with District 60. I have been for 20 years. My email address is tisha.wyatt@publiccityschools.us. I am calling in regards to the outsourcing of our nutrition services. For 20 years, I have worked alongside with our nutrition services staff, both at the administration building as well as along with in the schools. And I have found them to be connected to our children as grandparents, as parents, as aunts and uncles. Their concern and safety for our children and for the staff is remarkable. Pueblo is a community of culture and generations. Our children are worried about their family and their jobs, and this is a stress I don't feel we need during a pandemic. 15 years ago when I worked at Quillen Middle School, during the time of changes for that middle school, and during a time for a lot of changes, I recall many of our staff working long hours and hard to provide safe feeling and positive reinforcements for both staff and children. And I made a commitment that if the time ever came that I could step up and say something that might help put this on hold for a few years, that would be in my my debt of gratitude to them to do so. They need to feel safety during these times. I ask that you put this on hold for mostly for our children who are being raised by quite a few of our nutrition services staff, but also for the people of Pueblo. We are a generational community, and we do help one another. Thank you for your time. And I appreciate all that you do, the board, the administration building, and the teachers, and my fellow colleagues here at PLEAA. I appreciate everything.
Thank you, Tisha.
Mike Mays, President, Pueblo Education Association. Mike.Mays@puebloea.org. There has been a great deal of discussion regarding the outsourcing of D60's nutrition services. This is something that should not happen. We should not be engaging such planning at a time when there is so much uncertainty in our community. This outsourcing plan puts undue stress on many members of this community by putting their jobs at risk and is unnecessary, especially when nutrition services has such a small impact on the district's budget. Additionally, the district does not have a good track record with outsourcing of services. Putting jobs at risk in the middle of a pandemic doesn't seem like a good public relations move at this time. The district should be interested in supporting its employees and the community it serves. A private company taking over part of our district may not share our district values. The district will not be able to make sure those employees are treated fairly and will forfeit control of who enters school buildings, just as they did with the failed attempt at outsourcing custodial services. Current members of the school board have been strong union advocates and know the benefits of union membership. Ensuring a safe workplace, representation and decision-making, unified efforts to improve working conditions and job security. We do not want to put those essential tenets in jeopardy with an unknown private company. As we in District 60 effort to inspire community confidence, remember that Pueblo is a union town. The Pueblo Education Association is proud to stand behind all the labor groups in our District 60 family and our fellow unionists in Pueblo. An injustice to one of us is an injustice to all of us. Respect your employees, respect your community. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. We'll move now to 4.0, gifts to schools. Superintendent Macaluso.
Thank you, President Voss. At this time, I would ask that the Board of Education approve the following gifts to Pueblo School District 60 in the amount of $4,600. The first gift is from Benjamin and Irina Vancy, donated $500 to South High School Wrestling Program. Corinne Kaler donated $600 to Bessemer Academy to purchase items for student academic and attendance celebrations and achievements. Guitar Center Music Foundation donated the following items to South High School Instrumental Music Department: 2 electric bass guitars valued at $600, 2 semi-hollow body guitars valued at $1,000, and 2 QSC K-12 PA speakers valued at $1,600. And finally, Kathy West donated $300 to South High School boys basketball program.
I will move that we approve and accept the gifts to schools as presented in tonight's board materials.
Second.
I'll call for the vote, please.
Ms. Clemente,
With grateful thanks, aye.
Mr. Farrell,
Aye.
Judge Mays,
Aye.
Mr. Voss,
Aye.
Dr. Wright.
Aye.
Thank you, as always, to all of our donors. We'll move now to 5.0, recognition. Superintendent Macaluso.
Thank you, President Voss. At this time, I'd like to introduce Rick Macias, who will recognize our wrestling champion, 4A wrestling champion, and he will also give us a recap of the winter season recognitions. Mr. Macias?
Thank you, Mrs. Macaluso. Good evening, Superintendent Macaluso, School Board President Voss, and school board members. Before we recognize our state champion, I would like to recap and recognize the achievements of our winter sports season sports this year, which is season B because of COVID-19. First in the girls swimming, South High School senior Gia Genova placed 10th in the 200 freestyle and 8th in the 500 freestyle at the CHSAA State 3A Championships at the VMAC in Thornton. Congratulations to Gia on a fine season and her achievements at state, plus her 4 years swimming at South High School. Gia and the South High School girls swimming team are coached by Suzanne Dibelbis. In basketball, South High School and Central High School boys basketball teams were crowned co-South Central League champions. Both teams beat each other in the regular season to end up 9-1 in league standings. East, South, and Central qualified for the state playoffs. East lost in the first round. Central advanced to the Elite Eight before losing to Longmont, and South advanced to the Final Four before losing to eventual state champion Meade. Congratulations to East boys basketball team and Coach Mike Massaro, Central boys basketball team and Coach Brad Ranson, and South boys basketball team and Coach Shannon Lane. By the way, Coach Lane is the first female to coach a boys team to the Colorado State playoffs and make it all the way to the Final Four. Well done, Coach Lane. For the first time in Colorado high school wrestling history, the CHSAA State Championship Tournament was held here in Pueblo at the Southwest Motors Event Center. I would like to thank the Pueblo community for all their help in making this a very successful event here in Pueblo. On the girls' side, at the state tournament, Central student junior Jemima Miranda wrestling, she placed 5th at state and is our first Pueblo female athlete to place at the inaugural CHSAA Girls State Wrestling Championship. Congratulations to Jemima and her coaches, Coach Pino and Coach Franklin. In the boys 3A classification, so Central sophomore Jordan Atencio placed 5th at state in the 132-pound class. Congratulations to Jordan and Coach Kenny Pino. Before I recognize the 4A classification placers, I would like to mention that the East Wrestling team won their 5th consecutive regional wrestling tournament. Congratulations to the Eagles on that great accomplishment. In 4A District 60 qualifiers, they were all from East High School, and all our placers were from East High School. Sophomore L.J. Herberger placed 3rd at 106 pounds. Sophomore Weston Dalton placed 2nd at 132 pounds. Sophomore Sebastian Freeman placed 3rd at 138 pounds. Senior Anthony Flores placed 3rd at 145 pounds. Senior Diego Duarte placed 5th at 195 pounds. And last but not least, the 2021 Class 4A state champion at 182 pounds is junior Xavier Freeman. Xavier went undefeated this season with a perfect record of 26-0. Congratulations, Xavier Freeman. And congratulations to the East Wrestling team. Again, state champion Xavier Freeman and Coach Pat Laughlin. As a team, the Eagles finished with 100 points and placed third in the Class 4A classification team standings. Again, great accomplishment for the Eagles. East Principal Andy Clementi and Athletic Director Allie Nail will present Xavier and the coaching staff with their state championship patches at the school. Thank you, and I'm sure I'll be back with some more athletic recognitions by the end of the school year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Macias. It's times like these that I wish we weren't meeting virtually and we can, be in person and celebrate these students. So congratulations to all of our athletes. We'll move now to 7.0 communications board comments. Are there any communications from the board? Dr. Wright?
Yes, President Voss. I had a chance to attend the National Safe School Reopening Summit, and it was very informative. I learned a lot, and I'm just grateful for the opportunity to see how across the country that we're devising plans to move the students back in person safely. Thank you.
Judge Mays, any communications?
Thank you, President Voss. A couple of matters. First, it was an absolute pleasure today to spend time out in the nice balmy weather up at Centennial High School. It was a fabulous event, and I'd like to send out a special shout out to Dalton Sprouse, Donnie Rubel, John Pompey, and Lawrence Ramos, our publicity team from District 60 that was there today to cover everything. And what a fabulous job they did. It is my understanding that many of them, for sure, Mr. Sprouse, spent a great deal of the spring break preparing for the ceremony today, as well as the ceremony that's going to take place on Thursday. But I think President Voss said it better than anyone else could say it, and it was just a super proud moment for all of us to be there today. I've mentioned to several people, I don't know of any other circumstance where any school district in the state of Colorado has ever had the opportunity to say that within a 3-year period of time that they would have the construction of 5 new school buildings and schools. I am so immensely proud of all the work that everyone has done on this campaign and where we are today. And again, extremely thankful to the citizens of Pueblo, Colorado, who always rise to the occasion when they know there's a need. So that was, I don't know about everybody else. I was cold for a while, but all of the nice things that were being said sure warmed me up, and I'd do it again tomorrow. Same weather, even if it was snowing or something. I just loved it. Another thing I want to talk about is I've mentioned in the past that I am a member of Governor Polis's Education Leadership Council. And it's a council that's made up of, some 25 people from throughout the state. It includes principals, superintendents, parents, legislators, you name it, it goes across the board. But I was fortunate the last couple of meetings to sit in on a session where the parents and students had an opportunity to discuss all of the ramifications of COVID-19. And I'd like to share with you some of the takeaways that we had from that. To a person, the parents and the students, while recognizing that there were many challenges that we were forced with in the school districts, and maybe having to go back and reinvent something, not only day to day, but hour to hour sometimes, because we were learning on the go. The feeling among the students and the parents is that they were really proud of what the school districts had done, and they felt that they had really done a fabulous job in taking care of those matters that they had to from the very beginning, having been dealt this very difficult hand. It included the appreciation that the many initial challenges with accessing resources were impressed with the community partnerships to solve the problems, specifically talking about hotspots, family, school, community partnerships that were absolutely essential, and just everyone coming to the forefront to do what they had to do. They were particularly appreciative and wanted to continue down the road of recognizing the difficulty in adapting to new technology and how to address support for Spanish-speaking families with technology, and a continued need to be able to address that. Aligning technology with families with different, several children going to several different grade levels, and each one having the opportunity, for sure in District 60, to have their own laptop, which someone mentioned as that's the old pencil. And the recommendation that we can no longer go back, regardless of COVID or anything else, that a laptop for each individual student to be used in their educational process is no longer a luxury, it's a must, and we must continue to do that. The importance of establishing protocols for doing check-in and check-outs with students, and particularly those with IEPs, and the critical need to be faithful in implementing the check-in and check-out systems in order to keep students not only on task, but also to enforce the commitment that the schools have to the students, and that if we say we're going to do something, we're going to do it. That we can't say we're going to do a check-in and check-out and then say, well, we won't do it today because of this reason or with that reason. There was the message was loud and clear. If you're going to implement a system, please be faithful to it. Don't have any shortcuts on it, and make sure that the students are going to get exactly, and the parents are going to get exactly what we promised them. There was talk about with the virtual in and out, and the necessity to address being in and out of the system. And you know, obviously we're talking about when we defeat COVID and we're able to go back, with the idea that the students are going to have many choices. And once again, a shout out to the administration and my colleagues on the board and all of the support services in the district for, even in times of COVID, took on the Herculean task of recognizing the need for an online school for those students that would prefer to take that form of education instead of attending a brick and mortar school. And the immense amount of work that, and I know we'll be getting a report from Ms. Maury later on in the day, but not letting COVID put a stop to that and continuing to do it with the need that that is a need in this community, and we're going to be addressing it. the one of the things the students said is, hey, if you're going to give us virtual classes, is it necessary? You know, in the brick and mortar, the bell rings and you go from one class to another and you're scurrying down the hallway and all that. They said, man, don't make us go to the next class within 2 or 3 minutes. Give us a little bit of time. And it was interesting to see how the kids managed that. Some of them went and made a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Some of them went and took a walk around the block, or rode their bicycle, or communicated with other members in the family were there. And the point being is the trust factor, and understanding that these students are mature enough to know the work that needs to be done, but at the same time have the flexibility, if in fact we're going to do online and allow students to proceed at their own pace, to really trust them with that. And they asked to be given that opportunity. Again, I want to just say that they were extremely adamant and complimentary about the schools doing the very best job that they could, and trusted us, those of us in the schools, with doing the things that were right for the children and for the parents, and that there was a deep appreciation for that. As we go forward, some of the discussions are about the immense investment we have to make in early childhood. And we're not talking 3, 4-year-olds. We're talking about from the date of birth, and make sure that all of our children, regardless of their socioeconomic status, their gender, their religion, whatever it is, that they have access to the very best resources from the first moment of life, and that it is our responsibility as a state to see that that's going to happen. A great deal of respect for and encouragement to continue and improve professional development for all of our educators, and to allow the opportunity to make sure that it's meaningful. Talk about providing additional incentives for people to enter the most valuable profession that I could think of, and that's the educational system. And starting with perhaps taking a look at whether or not we tell someone they've graduated from college and all of this stuff, and then we tell them, hey, and by the way, we're going to give you the opportunity to spend some more money by getting certified and all that, and maybe taking another look at that, and whether or not that is something that we should consider as part of the incentive to get folks to come in to the most valuable profession that we have. As I indicated, laptops are here to stay, and it was very clear, I believe, that although we're going to be getting some very nice financial support with the stimulus package, that the recognition is that this is one-time money, and I'm sure that our district, like all the other districts, is going to be very creative in how we're going to expend that money. But the fact of the matter is the responsibility still falls back on the state of Colorado. It is the state of Colorado, one of the worst funded public education states in the nation, that is going to have to accept the responsibility to bring us up to the level that we need to be, not only in teacher compensation and other benefits, but also giving the very best resources that we possibly can to our students. And I guess that kind of dovetails with what we just saw this morning at Centennial and the State of Art School that's going to be going there, and the other 4 schools that are going to be up soon. So I'm encouraged by the work that this committee's doing. We're going to spend a great deal of time talking about how we go about funding, what policy changes need to be made, and how we're going to strengthen this system and make it the showcase for all educational systems in the United States. So I appreciate you, Mr. Voss, Ms. Macaluso, and my colleagues on the board, the opportunity to present probably what's too lengthy of a presentation, but there's been a lot going on, and it's a very active group, and I'll try to keep you informed as we move along. Thank you.
Mr. Farrell, any communications?
I have a couple. I had the privilege of reading to Mrs. Slane's fourth grade class earlier this month. My favorite Dr. Seuss book, Yertle the Turtle, even. And it was a virtual class. I'm looking forward to the day that we can go into a classroom and read again. But in the meantime, it was really good to be able to connect with the classroom. Some of the students shared some of the art that they'd made throughout the day up to their camera so I could see it on the screen. So it was exciting, and I wanted to thank Ms. Slane for allowing me the opportunity. I volunteered along with Board Member Clementi at the second vaccination clinic for educators. So I really got to see firsthand how smooth that process was. And I really wanted to extend a big thank you to everyone at the district, everyone at the health department, all the volunteers that were there that make that as smooth as it went. And I want to thank all our educators who took advantage of it and received their second dose of the vaccine. Along with some of Judge May's comments about the excitement of 5 new schools, again, with board Member Clementi, I've been participating in the DAG meetings for the Franklin School of Innovation and Sunset Park Elementary School. And I really wanted to thank everybody who's been participating in those, because there's some great discussion happening about what those schools can do and what those schools can mean to future generations in Pueblo. And there's some great ideas and great discussion happening in those groups. And I'm glad that I'm there to hear it. So thank you everyone for doing that, and thanks for the opportunity to share.
Ms. Clementi.
Thank you, President Voss, and thanks to my colleagues for all of their comments. In addition to those things, most of us attended the legislative breakfast last week, trying to keep abreast of that legislative work that will impact us and this district. As well, I attend the Colorado School Finance Project, which meets every 3 weeks or so, particularly during the legislative session, to again keep us up to date on particularly on school funding. And I just need to say out loud, because I think everybody needs to recognize this: next year's seniors will have spent their entire K-12 career in an underfunded system. They have never had an education system that's been fully funded according to what Colorado voters and citizens have said they want, they think is the appropriate level of education of funding for public education. So it's time for some changes to be made there. So yes, we're looking forward to the infusion of one-time monies from the relief and the rescue plans. But we have a long-term we need a long-term plan, and we need some major changes. And so, Judge, anything that you can do to help move that along with your committee, I really appreciate your work with that. I was also able to attend the listening tour for the state, which was kicked off here in Pueblo on Sunday with the governor and our other legislators. It's a legislators, excuse me. It's a listening tour that they're doing around the state to gather information and talk about how the state can best expend the funds that the state is receiving from the American Rescue Plan, which is in the neighborhood of 26 or $7 billion, which is terrific. And we heard lots of needs. We certainly talked about education. We certainly talked about pre-K and perhaps using some of those funds to expand the availability of full-time pre-K throughout the state. And broadband was also a large topic of conversation, along with many other things. I continued to attend the PACOG meetings, the Pueblo Area Council of Governments. Right now, their focus is primarily transportation in and around the area. And I'm sure you've all run into the traffic cones and the construction that's happening in and around our city. So those are good things, although they're not directly connected. Lastly, I attended a presentation from the district of the possible curriculums for the new K-12 online school. And first of all, I'm very appreciative of the process and all the work that's gone into vetting all of the systems, the criteria by which they were evaluated, and then of course the presentations that I think are being made throughout the week. So if there are others who are listening to this who are interested in looking at the two curriculums that are being seriously considered, there's opportunity for you to actually view it virtually online with these terrific presentations, which I think will be I'm sure much more detailed than what we're going to hear later today. So exciting things are going on all around, and we're pretty excited to be part of it all. Thank you.
All right, we'll move now to 8.0 special resolutions. We have a 2021 National Paraprofessional Appreciation Day resolution. Mr. Farrell.
Thank you, President Voss. This is a resolution honoring the efforts of Pueblo School District number 60 paraprofessionals. Whereas the paraprofessionals of Pueblo School District number 60 provide a critical service to the children and teachers on a daily basis, and whereas they serve a student population of over 14,000 children in every school day, and whereas they do so with great skill, care, compassion, humor, and sensitivity, and whereas they do so in a manner that reflects well on the district, and whereas their contribution is critical in allowing for the smooth daily operation of the district. And I would ask that the Pueblo School Board number 60 Board of Education recognizes National Paraprofessional Appreciation Day on April 7th, 2021. Further, the Board of Education expresses deep and heartfelt appreciation to the efforts made by paraprofessional staff each and every school day. Well done. I will move that the board proclaim April 7th, 2021 National Paraprofessional Appreciation Day as presented in this evening's board materials.
I second it.
I'll call for the vote, please.
Ms. Clementi?
Aye.
Mr. Farrell?
Aye.
Judge Mays?
Aye.
Mr. Voss?
Aye.
Dr. Wright?
Aye.
And we'll move now to 9.0 reports. Superintendent Macaluso.
Thank you, President Voss. At this time, we will be hearing some information regarding a proposed restrictive covenant and purchase and sale agreement concerning the Keating School property. And at this time, I'd like to invite our legal counsel, Mr. Bump, and he will be joined by representatives from the Keating Group. So, Mr. Bump.
Thank you. Good evening, President Voss, members of the board, and Superintendent Macaluso. I am pleased to be able to bring to you tonight some background information and to documents that we're going to be acted on later in the board meeting. This relates to the Keating School property that, of course, we've been working on for quite some time. I want to also recognize the fact that in the audience tonight, we have representatives of the Keating School Nonprofit Corporation, headed up by Corinne Kaler and her team, and I appreciate them being available tonight. I'll turn it over to them later. They may want to make a presentation as well, but I want to up front thank very much Corinne and all her work, her cooperation, her courtesy and integrity as we've worked through this process. It's very much appreciated. So I want to get that out right up front. The process that we've gone through actually goes back to February 14th of 2014. And Jim Fennell, who I see is in the audience this evening as well and may present, an architect from Colorado Springs, came to the school district and made a presentation to the board and the community at large about the possibility of redeveloping Keating and other schools in the district that were closed. Jim, of course, having come off of a successful redevelopment project in Colorado Springs called the Ivy Wild School, that many of you in Colorado have gone to Colorado Springs and seen that. So back to 2014 is when this really got started. Then after that, Corinne Kaler really took charge, and she is a member currently and has been of the board of Historic Pueblo, Inc. And I know that preservation of buildings is near and dear to her heart, and she has been instrumental in working with us since that time to see that this has come about. Following Jim and presentation and Corinne getting involved, in June of 2018, our discussions really began in earnest, and we realized quickly that we, the board that is, and the district, as well as Corinne and her team, had a mutual interest in making sure that the building was designated in the National Register of Historic Places. And by the way, the building was built in 1927 and certainly, as you know, would qualify for that. So after June of 2018, Bob Lawson then initiated some tours of the building for people, including Corinne and her group, Jim Fennell and others, to see really what the situation was at the site. In November of 2018, Corinne actually received a quotation to do the application for the National Register of Historic Places and arranged to have state historical review take place, which was slated, I think, for May of 2019. So that's a slow process, but nevertheless, it has been working through the system. And then in June of 2019, additional tours were conducted, this time not only with Jim Fennell, but also with all prospective investors who might stand to be interested in the project by virtue of the tax credits that are available if the building is in fact designated in the National Register. Another, I think, watershed day was September 14th, 2019, when Corinne and her team created a nonprofit corporation called Keating School, and they have qualified that corporation as a 501c tax-exempt corporation. Their board is comprised of 7 board members with diverse expertise, as I said, many of whom are participating tonight. And the plan would be that the nonprofit corporation would purchase the building, would direct the redevelopment of the project, and would continue to be the owner of a portion of the building, in particular, among other things, the auditorium, which has great historical significance. And they would continue then to make that available for the community to use for various events going forward. On January 16th of 2020, you may remember that the Keating School Group made a nice presentation with PowerPoint slides that is still available for the public to view today about the concept of what could happen at Keating School and the plans that they had at that time. After that meeting, the board directed us to move forward and try to start negotiating the potential sale of the building to Keating School Group, which we did, and we ultimately developed on October 8th, 2020. The board approved a memorandum of understanding, which is essentially a document like a letter of intent that was leading to a more detailed and definitive purchase and sale agreement with the group. Then on December 7th, 2020, good news came through from Corinne that the building had indeed been designated in the National Register of Historic Places, and that was reported very well in the Pueblo Chieftain in an article on December 21st of 2020. So following that, Corinne and I and others have been working on the development of the documents that are going to be before you this evening for action, the covenant and the purchase and sale agreement. And I want to just highlight a little bit about what those documents do, primarily the covenant, and then I'm going to turn it over to Corinne and her group to respond to the board as well. The covenant on the sale of school property is a common occurrence in my experience. And in this particular case, it is done to assure that the future use is compatible with the neighborhood as well as the goals of the board itself. And as I mentioned, the goals of the board are that we have this property not only registered with the National Registry, but that status maintains itself as well as the facade of the building going forward. This particular covenant that you're going to be considering tonight does several things. One is it's going to assure that the auditorium will continue to be owned by the nonprofit corporation and available for community use. It will allow the school district itself to use the auditorium once it's redone for up to 10 days every year at a reduced rate, which would allow then the school district to still have presentations there and even board meetings if they wanted to. It also will exclude other schools and programs from offering academic credit or credit toward degrees other than those that are conducted by a Pueblo school district. No improvements in the future will be allowed that would in any way jeopardize or cause the building to lose its designation on the National Register, which is an important consideration, I know. There will be no ability to have any marijuana dispensaries or facilities on the property, no adult entertainment or novelty stores of any kind, and no gun shops or shooting facilities will be allowed on the property. And this covenant will restrict those uses for up to 30 years and could even be beyond that if it were necessary and agreed to by the then current owners. But those are the essential terms of the covenant. The purchase and sale agreement is a more detailed version of the memorandum of understanding, provides for an upfront cash payment from the group, as well as provides sufficient time for them to work through the city process. And Corinne can speak to that. She's already on that beat and has been in touch with the city about what that's going to take to do things like rezoning and also potential subdivision of the property. So at this point, I'm going to ask Corinne if she would step forward virtually, if you will, and be available to address the board.
Thank you very much. After that presentation by Dick, I'm not quite sure if I have too much more to add. He certainly covered everything possible. But thank you very much. We're really excited to continue on this journey of restoring and repurposing Keating School. And it's one of those things where we realize the task ahead of us is quite large, but we really feel that the Keating School is something that really needs to be preserved, and it is just such a beautiful, wonderful building. First, I'd like to introduce on the call this evening, we have three of our board members. Paul Willemstad, that many of you know, is on, and he is a semi-retired lawyer. Beth Gladney, who is a realtor, and also then Jim Fennell, who is an architect out of Colorado Springs. So there's several of us on the call this evening, and really are very excited that we have made it to this point in our negotiations and of signing. And a couple of the things that Dick did not cover was that we also have become an enterprise zone. So this project does qualify for the 25% state tax credit. So if you want to give to the project, feel free, because you will get a state tax credit. You never miss a chance for asking for money. And we have started to do a mailing to try and raise some funds, because we all know the startup funds are the hardest to raise. And when get beyond that, there's a lot of opportunities for historic tax credits, new market tax credits, a lot of PACE for energy efficiency. There's a lot of possibilities for funding, but it's just that the initial startup here costs that we're going to be doing. And we have met with the city planning department, and so we're starting the process of doing all the different steps that we have to take to get approved by the city, because you realize that it's now zoned for schools, and we have to switch it to a multi-use piece of property, because we'll be doing housing, we'll be having small businesses, we'll have a variety of different pieces of businesses and housing on the property. And because it's almost a full lot, so there's a lot of room to do a lot of development on it. And also we'll be applying, and we're in process of applying for grants. So there are a lot of things that are happening, lots of different steps to go through, but and we may have to come back and ask for a little longer on some things as things change, because you never know in this economy and the state of COVID what's going to be happening. But we're very optimistic that we will be able to move ahead and get a lot accomplished. So I'd be happy to answer questions, and any of our other board members, if you have questions for them, we'd be happy to answer them. But we're real excited to be able to get to this point in the process.
Dr. Wright, any questions or comments?
I have no questions. Just want to say thank you very much for the presentation. I appreciate Dick Bump giving us that history of all that has taken place. So thank you all. It's exciting times again in Pueblo.
Thank you.
Judge Mays?
I'd just like to express my deepest appreciation to the group. They've worked really hard at this, numerous hours, putting together the plan. And for those of you who have not had the opportunity to look at what they're talking about, please do so. It's going to be just absolutely beautiful. It's going to be a great amenity to that particular area of town. Everything that's being done there is of the highest quality, and it is done with the thought of how much love we have for Pueblo and for Keating, and to make sure that this project that we're going to be embarking on is going to be something that this community will be proud of forever. And Corinne and your group, I just want to say thank you so much for the countless hours. And this is all voluntary on their part, and it's been quite an endeavor. And I for one am just super excited about where we are and where we're going. So thank you very much.
Mr. Farrell?
I don't have any questions. Thank you, Mr. Bump, for reminding us the process that we've been through. That's always helpful. And thank you to the Keating School Group for your vision and your perseverance to make this happen. I'm excited about the next steps and to see where we go from here.
Thank you.
Ms. Clementi?
Thank you. I just want to add my gratitude to what's already been said by my colleagues. Keating is near and dear to my heart. I graduated from Keating, as it were, spent 3 years there as when it was a junior high. It is a beautiful building and carries, I mean, it's just got great energy. and great bones. And so I also thank everyone who's been involved, and Corinne, you and your group, for taking this on and safeguarding not just the memories, but the heritage that comes with this building. Thanks.
Thank you.
I can't even tell you how many times I've drove by Keating and just thought what a shame it was for that beautiful building to just be sitting there. So I can't even tell you how happy I am for new life to be brought to that building and to be brought to the community. I think it's going to be another great thing. So thank you, Corinne, for all of your work, and to the work of the entire group as well.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Ms. Clementi?
Thank you, President Voss. I just want to be sure that we have dotted our I's and crossed our T's with the conversation that we're having right now about this restrictive covenant. I believe that it's a requirement that we as a board have a public discussion about the covenant. Mr. Bump walked us through it very nicely. I certainly agree with that covenant, and hope that what this conversation is sufficient to meet the needs of the law.
And I can say that it is. It has been noticed for this night's regular meeting. It has been posted with the action agenda item as well, so it's available for the public to view, and has been with the agenda, as well as the purchase and sale agreement and a resolution of the board that the board is going to be considering later on this evening.
Thank you, and I'm glad to have that on the record.
Thank you, Ms. Clementi. We'll move now to our second report, the 2021-2022 District-Run Online School Task Force Update.
Thank you, Mr. Voss. At this time, I'd like to introduce Assistant Superintendent Maury, and if it's acceptable to the board, she will give an update regarding where we are with the district proposed online school. And I've also asked her to provide some information regarding our music performances that we're working on. I know that the board is interested in, to see where we are with that, and also any return to school plans. And I know that lots of changes are happening in regard to the assessment schedule, CMAS, et cetera. So if that's acceptable to the board, I would ask her to tag on those informational pieces. Ms. Maury?
Thank you, Superintendent Macaluso. President Voss, Superintendent Macaluso, and members of the board. Tonight, I would like to share an update regarding the progress we are making in planning for our K-12 online school, which will open next year, as well as a couple of other timely announcements, as Ms. Macaluso mentioned, regarding our schools and instructional programming for the remainder of this school year. The online task force has identified 2 finalist curriculum online platforms. We have scheduled 3 guided virtual public viewings this week to collect community, parent, teacher, and student input. We had a very strong showing at last night's opportunity, and we have another opportunity tonight, as well as one tomorrow. The task force will spend all day this coming Friday watching virtual presentations by each of these 2 finalists. And then we'll be making a final recommendation of a selection for an online platform and curriculum. We will bring that to the board for formal approval and adoption at our April 15th board meeting, so coming up in just a couple of weeks. Additionally, the interview process, very exciting, for the K-12 online principal has been completed, and that appointment is scheduled to be announced during the board meeting later tonight. So look forward to that. At this time, I want to switch gears a little to share some important information regarding our instructional programs at each level. As I'm sure you're aware, the CDC has recently relaxed the social distancing guidelines for schools. And we are excited to share that this is going to allow us to bring back more students for some additional in-person instruction, which is so important. Starting with the elementary level, all of our elementary in-person students are already attending school 4 days a week, as you know. Our elementary schools have also been reaching out to parents pretty aggressively and actively, parents of online students, to maximize the number of students that we are able to bring back for in-person instruction. And later this week, our elementary principals will again reach out to online parents to let them know that we're continuing to try to accommodate in-person instruction for as many students as possible on a case-by-case basis, and that's also first come, first serve. So wanted to share that work at the elementary level. At the middle school level, beginning Monday, April 19th, we are going to be transitioning all of our hybrid in-person middle school classes to 4 days a week. So this means that all of the Monday, Wednesday, and Tuesday, Thursday in-person middle school hybrid students will be expected and welcomed to attend school 4 days a week, starting Monday, April 19th. And we have communicated that out to our staff this afternoon at the middle school level, and we'll be also sending out a school messenger to all of our families at the middle school levels tomorrow. This is going to require some creative rescheduling of classes and lunches and spaces, but I'm really happy to share that all of our middle school principals felt that it was possible for in-person students to return to instruction 4 days a week. So we're excited about that. Our high school principals have been working closely with the ESS department to bring back as many of our highest needs students 2, 3, and in some cases even 4 days a week in person. Our high school special education case managers are continuing to reach out to families on a case-by-case basis to come up with creative ways to serve even more students on IEPs in person. Earlier in the semester, our high schools transitioned a number of online students back to in-person instruction by request when they could do so without negatively impacting course credit. All high school in-person students are currently attending school on a hybrid schedule. Our high school principals recently discussed the possibility of bringing back in-person students 4 days a week. And as much as they would like to have accommodated this, our high school principals unanimously agreed that they did not feel this would be possible at the high school level due to the scheduling challenges and some of the larger class sizes, which would not allow them to consistently accommodate a 3-foot distance in all the classrooms and the recommended 6-foot distance in the high aerosol and lunchrooms when masks are taken off. On a positive note, though, the district has recently approved a detailed safety plan allowing each of our high schools to rehearse for and present 1 vocal music and 1 instrumental music performance later this spring. Those safety guidelines, so that you know, were written by Cindy Smith, our district fine arts specialist, and all of our high school music teachers. They were then reviewed by the Pueblo Health Department, and all of the recommended revisions were just a few, were incorporated into the plan. So we're looking forward to those in-person performances coming up at each of our high schools. And lastly, I would like to turn this presentation over to Tiffany Den, our assessment coordinator, so that she can share an update on CMAS and state testing.
Thank you, Suzanne, and good evening, President Voss, Superintendent Macaluso, members of the board. As you are probably all aware, the Federal Department of Education has mostly approved Colorado's waiver for spring assessments. Most students will now be required to take only 1 content area of assessments for April. And I wanted to share with you the assessments that will be given by grade level. So I've shared my screen here so you can see a chart. So students in grades 3, 5, and 7 will be taking the English Language Arts Assessment, and students in grades 4, 6, and 8 will take math. Additionally, 8th grade students will also be required to take the science assessment, and students that take the alternate assessment will take the same content as their grade level peers. In high school, students in 9th grade will take the PSAT 9, 10th grade will take the PSAT 10, and 11th grade will take the SAT. Because SAT is replacing the science assessment for 11th grade for this school year only, 11th graders will not be taking the science assessment. The only exception will be our alternate tested students who will take ELA, math, and science.
Oh, okay.
So for this year, we have created a district level testing schedule. This offers us the opportunity to provide district support to schools as they navigate through state assessments. Elementary students will be testing next week, the week of April 5th. Our middle level students will be testing the week of April 19th. And our high school students will be testing the week of April 12th. So we have a busy April coming up. And I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have about that.
Thank you, Ms. Den. That does conclude the report. So I'll turn it back to you, President Voss.
Dr. Wright, do you have any questions or comments?
Yes, a couple of. Can you clarify for me? You mentioned something about elementary, and I'm sorry, I was taking notes, but I think I didn't quite get this. It was something about a case-by-case basis, first come, first served, the principals were doing for elementary level. Can you clarify that, please?
Absolutely. All of our elementary principals have been reaching out to online families, and when there's been a request for an online student to return to in-person instruction, our schools have tried to accommodate that and have been very creative and successful in being able to do so. So they're going to be continuing to do that, and we'll actually by the end of the week be reaching out to each of their online families just to reiterate that they are continuing to try to bring back as many as they can. We do say it's on a case-by-case basis and first come, first serve, just because we need to make sure we look at numbers and social distancing and so forth. But so far, we've been quite successful in bringing back families who have asked for that.
Okay, thank you. And the second question deals with the productions, and I want to thank you for, I know there were concerns about the performance as compared to sports. You mentioned vocal, instrumental. Do we have any theater companies? Are there any plays or that we do for D60? What about those?
So we do have drama clubs as well as classes, and we do have performances. Right now, none of them were in rehearsal, and so we said at this time, let's limit it to at each of our schools those 2 performances, so that we could really make sure we were focused and were able to follow the pretty regimented safety guidelines for each of those.
So is this for the entire year or just for this quarter, and then maybe the theater will be later in the year? Can you talk about that?
No, at this time, we're only planning to have 1 vocal performance. Of course, that could be different groups from each school performing, as well as 1 instrumental. And again, that often is multiple different musical instrumental groups. So there is not a plan at this time for a separate theatrical production or anything like that.
Okay, thank you. And the last question deals with the safety plan. One of the things that was addressed with the summit was about how much schools have to do with one way, with the signage, with also talking about ventilation was a major issue, about some of the money that's coming down the pipeline for us to be able to pay for some of these things. Can you address what plans we have in place to perhaps address some of the ventilation issues in some of the schools?
That wouldn't be my area of expertise. There's nothing specific in terms of the arts performances coming up. That might be a question that would be better addressed.
Ms. Macaluso. So we are continuing to explore, especially with the ESSER 3 funds, whether or not we would be able to do some air conditioning or some ventilation with those funds. So we're still looking through that guidance to make sure that it's an appropriate expenditure. So yes, we are exploring that.
And I really appreciate that, because that was one of the things that was mentioned that the funds could be used for. And I just recall back in my early days of getting on the board when we were addressing the issues with the school buildings, and several of them had issues with ventilation. So I was really excited to hear that some of this federal money we may be able to use to even to upgrade our ventilation to help to improve the safety of our students. So I want to keep my ears open for that, and I appreciate maybe later helping me to see how we can use those funds to do some of the repairs that we didn't have funds before to do. I'm just grateful that we can get those things done.
Sure. And in addition, I know that Mr. Lawson continues to explore different ventilation products that vendors are contacting him about. I know even Board Member Clementi sent over some information and some links that he was exploring. So we're continuing to look at that, if that's an option.
Thank you so much. Greatly appreciate it. And thank you for the presentation tonight.
Judge Mays.
Yes, Ms. Den, trying to keep track of all these dates, when we're going to go back in person and when we're going to do tests. And I just wanted to make sure that we're not going to be bringing kids into school at the same time that we're going to try to administer these tests. I guess my concern would be is whether or not we're going to have the time to do all of that. So should I have any concerns about that?
So that would be yes and no. We are going to be bringing kids, transitioning our middle school kids back the same week that we will be administering tests. However, those students are already in school 2 days a week. They're just transitioning to 4 days a week. So in collaboration and in consultation with the building administrators, they really feel like that is a viable plan, and they feel like they can accomplish that.
Thank you.
Mr. Farrell.
Thank you, President Voss. Thank you for the update. I'm a little surprised to receive some of it. I didn't know all of this would be included in tonight's report. I guess I have some questions / concerns about transitioning back to in-person learning and just what that transition will look like, especially knowing that our community is bordering back on a yellow level on the dial. I know you mentioned changes in CDC's social distancing requirements. I know the dial has changed several times as far as what's allowed at what level and what each level looks like. What are there any major changes to what we'd be looking at for if there's a positive case in a school, as far as quarantining or cohorts and all of that stuff?
So I'll start to answer that, and then maybe Ms. Maury or Mr. DeCicero could chime in. I think in our return to school plan, I think we're very cautious. And so that is why we're not really proposing that everybody come back in person. We're really trying to change that hybrid model. And in elementary, we're continuing to do the same thing. We may reach out to add additional students, but again, we're going to continue to monitor how many students are in a classroom so that we keep it manageable. At high school, that is why we're not making significant changes, because we are continuing to be concerned about quarantines and bigger bodies in classrooms and that sort of thing. So you'll find that examination of the plan that Ms. Maury proposed, it's not significant changes. Probably the largest change is that eliminating the hybrid model to the middle level, and we're going to continue to monitor that. It is true that the rates are increasing in our community. However, the rates are still low. I think last night when I checked, I think we're at 3%. We were at a time we were at 1.6%. We were operating our schools when it was 16%. which was difficult. I'd have to admit that was difficult. So I think we're still in a good place, but we will continue to monitor that. I don't know if Ms. Maury or Mr. DeCicero, if you want to talk about the quarantining. We're still, we will still follow the guidelines in terms of quarantining. We do have many of our staff members who are vaccinated now. The state of Colorado did open vaccines for 16 years and over, so that's positive and in our favor. Mr. DeCicero, did you want to chime in on any of those elements?
I think you covered most of it. There have been some slight changes, as Superintendent Macaluso alluded to, with vaccinated staff and their ability to be exempt from certain quarantines. But for the most part, for our students who have not yet been vaccinated, that hasn't changed that much as far as the quarantine rules. And we can still do the targeted quarantine in our secondary level schools, but it's for the most part been the same. So it's still going to continue to be a challenge for us.
The other thing that we're really monitoring, Board Member Farrell, are those areas where kids aren't wearing their mask, like in the cafeteria, things like that, in high aerosol, like physical education, music, that sort of thing. And so we're going to, we're still adhering to, we really need to monitor the number of students in those spaces and try to mitigate that the best that we can. And that's another reason why we are permitting, again, we're trying to find a balance. And that's why we're permitting only those limited choir performances, for example, until the end of the year. So we're going to try to, we know that it's important for our students to have in-person graduation and those performances and those sorts of things. So I think we're treading cautiously and we're moving forward cautiously. So, and again, if we see that it's an issue or that we have to continue to quarantine or we're experiencing outbreaks, then we'll have to pull back. So we really feel like this is a cautious approach to moving forward. And I think it's a nice balance.
I definitely appreciate the caution and the awareness of what's happening. I am, along with you, excited that Colorado has opened vaccinations up starting Friday to 16 and up. I'm excited that that's happening sooner than probably any of us expected it to if you would have asked us 3 months ago. But I'm also worried that means people think that it's over when it's not, and it's going to take a while to reach a level of vaccination, even if it is open to more and more people. And watching the numbers in the community always concerns me. I think I've said that 12 times in the last year about the numbers in the community. And you're right, we have seen the ebb and flow. Looking nationally and worldwide at how that ebb and flow is happening, it looks like there's some choppy waters ahead, but I think that there's light at the end of the tunnel with having more and more people eligible for vaccinations. Can you just, has any guidance changed for staff as far as gatherings and PD and that kind of stuff, or is that still as it was the last update?
At this time, there hasn't been any change. We're still conducting all of our business virtually. Okay. In terms of the adults.
We are, my team is working on trying to look at some guidance for the schools. I know that now that we do have many of our adults and our educators vaccinated, we would like to start having more in-person meetings. I know that's a desire of our educators and our teachers to have more in-person meetings. So we're working on developing some guidance in that regard to see if we can open that up a little bit. CDC does say that when people are fully vaccinated, they can meet with groups and we can do in person. So we are looking at that. We haven't published that yet. Mr. DeCicero, did you want to talk anything about that?
I was just going to say that with the guidelines that we're looking at, we'd be following all the CDC guidelines up to this point for fully vaccinated people and to open that up slowly, but give people an opportunity to do some of that important in-person dialogue that we haven't had for such a long time. And I know there's a lot of people itching to get back to be able to have some true collaboration again. So.
And I know we had a good number of people participate in the clinics. I know we probably also had people participate in clinics outside of that. But I'm sure that there's still some that, for one reason or another, have not decided to have a vaccine. So I'm glad to hear that we're pursuing with caution, and I know that will continue. Thank you.
Ms. Clementi.
Thank you. And thanks for the update. I'd like to ask Ms. Den to repeat the testing windows for the 3 levels. I just didn't get it. When the 3 levels will be testing.
Sure. So our elementary will be testing next week, which is the week of April 5th. And they're testing April 5th, 6th, and 7th during that week. Middle level will be the week of April 19th, and they will not begin testing until the 20th. So they'll be testing the 20th, 21st, and 22nd. And then our high school students will be testing the week of April 12th.
12th. Okay, great. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So, Mrs. Macaluso and Mrs. Mori, given the caution that we have to take, I am afraid to ask about the summer musical. Has a decision been made, and do you know where we are with that?
I don't know that a definitive decision has been made. I think the initial decision was that it was not going to proceed this summer. I'll have to circle back and see, check into that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mori and Ms. Den, for the update. We appreciate it. We'll move now to the 2020-2021 second quarter financial report.
Thank you, President Voss. So at this time, I'd like to invite Mr. Horner.
Good evening. Am I here?
We see you and hear you.
I lost part of that last presentation, so I'll keep this short in case I get cut off here. As your CFO, this is kind of a report I like to present. It's non-eventful and has no real differentials in it. So the big difference between the 2 years when we look at it at the second quarter is because of the CARES funds and the way the state did the at-risk funding that we had to move to grant funds, there is some difference, but our expenditures really aren't that different from last year as percent of budgets. When we look at collections for the 2021 school year, the 44 million is 39.1%, which is 5% less than the revenue for 1920, but we shifted revenue out of there, so have no concerns about that. And when we look at our expenditures for salaries for 1920, we had, for salaries and benefits for 1920, we were at 89.8%, and for 2021 at 84.1%. But we also shifted salaries and benefits out and paid for it out of the CRF funds. So I'm very comfortable with where this is showing us as we track this year going forward. We did also just receive, the supplemental appropriations and more additional funds. It'll be about another 1.4 to 1.5 million that we get this year beyond what we budgeted for in the amended budget. So I feel like we're in great shape to finish out this year. At that, I would accept any questions that the board has.
Dr. Wright, any questions?
I do not. Thank you, Mr. Horner, for your report.
Judge Mays?
I do not have any, thank you.
Mr. Farrell?
No questions. Thank you, Mr. Horner.
Ms. Clementi.
Thank you, Mr. Horner. I have one question. I was a little weirded out to see that our revenues at this point are below 50% of our expected budget, and that our expenditures are above 50%. So have I misread that? Are we seeing a slower than normal dispensation of revenue to us from the city and the state?
No, we're very consistent on where we're at on our revenues compared to last year. And also, if you remember, we started encumbering salaries and benefits, so you are showing full year salaries and benefits as expenditures now, which we started about 2 years ago, so we have a better picture. So that's part of just the different way we're tracking things.
Okay, terrific. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Horner, for the update. We'll move now to 10.0 policy. Superintendent Macaluso.
Thank you, President Voss. The first board policy that's coming before you, I would ask that the board consider approval of the modifications to board policy BCR. This is the school board member financial disclosure. This is a second and final reading. There were no changes based on brought forth from the first reading. And this essentially is the modification that's being recommended is to reflect the amount of gifts to be reported increased to $65 in line with inflation.
Okay, I will move that we approve the modifications to board policy BC-R, school board member financial disclosure on second and final reading as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? I'll call for the vote, please.
Ms. Clementi?
Aye.
Mr. Farrell?
Aye.
Judge Mays?
Aye.
Mr. Voss?
Aye.
Dr. Wright?
Aye.
Superintendent Macaluso, do you have anything to add for the second policy?
No, again, there were no recommended changes from first reading. And so I would ask that the board consider approval of GBI criminal history record information.
Okay, then I will move that we approve board policy GBI criminal history record information on second and final reading as presented in today's board materials.
Second.
Any discussion? I'll call for the vote, please.
Ms. Clementi?
Aye.
Mr. Farrell?
Aye.
Judge Mays?
Aye.
Mr. Voss?
Aye.
Dr. Wright?
Aye.
We'll move now to 11.0, the consent agenda. Are there any consent agenda items anyone would like to be removed to be voted on separately? Then I will move that we approve consent agenda items 2 through 13 as presented.
Second.
Any discussion? I'll call for the vote, please.
Ms. Clementi?
Aye.
Mr. Farrell?
Aye.
Judge Mays?
Aye.
Mr. Voss?
Aye.
Dr. Wright?
Aye.
We'll move now to 12.0 action items. Superintendent Macaluso.
Thank you, President Voss. I would ask that the board consider the disciplinary matter involving student number 151742. That will require a motion.
Yes, President Voss, I move that the Board of Education expels student number 151742 for 1 calendar year, pending review in 45 days, as presented in tonight's board materials.
Second.
Is there any discussion? I'll call for the vote, please.
Ms. Clementi,
Aye.
Mr. Farrell,
Aye.
Judge Mays,
Aye.
Mr. Voss,
Aye.
Dr. Wright.
Aye.
Next up, we have administrative leadership appointments, reassignments. Superintendent Macaluso.
Thank you, President Voss. I have the following leadership appointments, and actually there are 5. If it's permissible to the board members, I would like to read all 5 of them and then entertain a motion. The first one is for Mr. Aaron Bravo, current Executive Director of Intervention Student Services, to Director of District Athletics, effective 7/1/2021. The next appointment would be for Kylie Felzine, who is a current Dean and teacher at Goodnight Elementary, to Principal of Belmont Elementary School, effective August 2nd, 2021. The third appointment would be for Mrs. Michelle Padilla, current Dean of Students and Media Teacher, to Elementary Principal at Bradford Elementary, effective August 2nd, 2021. The fourth appointment would be for Miss Morgan Lee Kemp, current Assistant Principal at Bessemer Academy, to Elementary Principal, South Park Elementary, August 2nd, effective August 2nd, 2021. And finally, it would be my recommendation for Miss Stephanie Markert, current Interim Assistant Principal at Pueblo Academy of Arts, to Principal of K-12 Online School. That's the new proposed online school. And that would be effective May 1st, 2021.
I will move that we approve. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I apologize. I just want to note that that is an earlier date that you may have noticed and so we will work an effective transition plan to be able to provide support to the current school, but we do need to transition her early in order to be successful launching the new online school.
Thank you. I will move that we approve the superintendent's recommendation for administrative appointments as presented in today's board materials.
Second.
Any discussion? I'll call for the vote, please.
Excuse me, Ms. Clementi,
Aye.
Mr. Farrell,
Aye.
Judge Mays,
Aye.
Mr. Voss,
Aye.
Dr. Wright.
Aye.
We'll move now to 13.0. Are there any recommendations for future agendas? Mr. Farrell?
Thank you, President Voss. I just would like to ask about the next time we might hear from the Community Schools Task Force. I believe they were in the process of doing things. I know it's a chaotic year, but I think an update from them would be great.
I will check into that. It's my understanding that they gave their final update, but we can certainly circle back and see what their progress is.
Okay. I didn't realize it was a final update. Thank you.
Ms. Clementi?
Thank you. I'd like us to have a conversation about returning our board meetings to in-person. And I don't care where that happens. I don't know that it needs to happen at the next meeting, but that would be one of the options. I think we do need to have that conversation. And before we go, I would like to have a point of personal privilege, please. I'm happy to wait until we've finished with this conversation, though.
Okay. Yeah, that'll work. Any other agenda recommendations?
I agree with Board Member Clementi. that we need to have this discussion about coming back in person. I'm confident with the work that's been done in our community that we can accommodate a safe environment for everyone. And so I would encourage that we do that. And I'll go a little step further, Ms. Clemente, and say sooner rather than later.
Sure, we can definitely do that. Okay, if there's no other recommendations, Ms. Clemente.
Thank you. I probably should have done this earlier, but I want to recognize Katie Brown, one of our employees, a counselor at Sunset Park, who has been named the president-elect of the Colorado School Counselor Association. And obviously that's the statewide organization for all school counselors. And I think that's a pretty big deal. So I wanted to give a shout out to Katie to congratulate her. Our District 60 staff really is awesome. And they go above and beyond. So thank you and congratulations, Katie.
Thank you for that, Ms. Clemente.
Thank you, Board Member Clemente, for remembering to provide affirmations to Ms. Brown. That is quite a recognition for her. And I believe that we did put out a shout out on our social media. And if we haven't done that, we can certainly do that. But I believe that we did. So congratulations to Ms. Katie Brown.
Congratulations, Katie. Are there any other announcements other than upcoming board meetings? Okay, anything else from the board? All right, then at 8 p.m. we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Have a good evening.